Talk about some types of food that actually is a good thing to have around. It's very easy to take, and that is like the Brazil nuts, peanuts, pistachios, actually just mixed peanut nuts and stuff. It's very, very healthy for you. Actually, a lot of people used to think it wasn't healthy, and actually, my cat, I don't like giving them peanuts because I think they're maybe too hard to digest. But I know cats, they will give them peanut butter when they're going to give them medicine. It's not really bad for him or anything like that. So sometimes you get some organic peanut butter. He loves this stuff. I don't know what the deal is. But anyway, what you could do is get stuff like, I'm not going to show the brand name or anything. It's just an off-brand. But mixed nuts. And the reason is, it's particularly the peanuts, the almonds. Well, all of them actually also have different benefits. But basically the Brazil nuts and the peanuts and the almonds will have a lot of selenium, especially the ones that are not opened up. If you have to open up the almond or the Brazil nut or the peanut, you have to open them up. Those even have more selenium. And the thing is, selenium, I know a lot of people, depends, there's a lot of controversy about selenium, what it does. You could take the pills like this, selenium, and this is 200 micrograms mcg. Or you could just take the food. So sometimes people want to take the food. I think that's smart to do too. A lot of times people say that the peanuts are not good because of the oils. They have fats in them. Well, I've been reading for some years back, even this is probably, I don't know how old this book is, probably 5-6 years old or whatever. Fats that heal, fats that kill, right? Now I'm not selling the book or anything like that, but I'm saying there's quite a bit of volume of information on the various types of fat. It's basically anything that's man-made is really what the problem is, or anything that is, improved by machinery, polyunsaturated, and all this type of stuff. In other words, if it's from nature, usually you don't have a problem with it at all. Fats actually are good for you, for the most part. And peanuts are actually, a lot of people avoid them because of the calories, but you got to remember it's the type of calories, but there's also a lot of protein, which is the building blocks. But the other thing is, it actually is supportive of your overall health and immune system too. The selenium will actually rev up your CD4, CD8, and CD14 cells and your white blood cells. Now, usually the best way to take selenium, or the natural way of taking selenium, is like the Brazil nuts, the peanuts, and other types of nuts, pistachios, almonds, is to take some vitamin C with it too, because as you are revving up, more use of the selenium, actually it's vitamin C, zinc, and copper. Actually as you take more, it's like you got to do all these things together. It's a balance, it's a mixture. The recommended daily allowance should be called the recommended death allowance. A lot of times it's not. It's like the minimalistic allowance. When people they state this is what the recommended daily allowance is, that actually is a very, very low ball minimum in many cases. Now I know in the case of selenium, it's highly, highly controversial. The people that are in this quote unquote alternative health will tell you that you got to have at least 200 micrograms of selenium a day. That's mcg. Other people that are more conventional, or I don't know what is it, I think it's the government or something, because selenium actually has a range. It's like between this, I don't even want to say the range, but just too low is no good. You can actually have like heart attacks from being lacking selenium, and too high it gets toxic. Now, the government might say, I don't want to say it's the government, but some of these other official studies will say that 200 micrograms of selenium is actually getting too high. Now, some of the alternative health professionals will say you should take 300 micrograms of selenium mcg to help avoid cancer and heart disease and things like that. And if you have severe problems like cancer, HIV, or anything like that, something really severe, you should be doing like 800 to 1,000 micrograms. And that kind of coincides with the Chinese studies, where Chinese say it's a little bit over 1,000 mcg, micrograms of selenium, where it starts to get toxic. See, the range is all over the place depending on who the hell you listen to. I've read about this extensively, and I'm trying to put it down real simply. But the one thing that really piqued my interest on this more is that where it's legit is that high selenium in soils like in West Africa have shown a very low incidence of AIDS and cancer, yet very low soils, a very low incidence of selenium in soils like in Zambia or something like that, have very high rates of AIDS and cancer. So, it is a proven fact that selenium is highly necessary. It's a necessary vital trace element. It also helps to rev up the immune system. But where the controversy lies is in the range. What's the beneficial range? You can have too little, too much. And some people say a lot less than others. That's why I don't really want to state per se. But I'm going to tell you this. If you take some mixed nuts, like these Brazil nuts that are in here and stuff, and the peanuts and the almonds, you more than likely are going way over the range where some of the people say the range should be low, and you're more in the range where like the health professionals are talking is the alternative health professionals are saying it's correct. You're more in the range even where the Chinese studies are saying that's the right range it should be in. So I just want to offer this information, and it's a simple way to actually improve your health. There's been a number of studies where there's other studies out there that said that there's a lot of, I'm not going to give the percentages, there's various percentages, but they're saying it's a significant reduction in heart disease and cancer from people who did eat the peanuts and Brazil nuts and almonds and pistachios versus the people that didn't. The people that didn't actually had a higher incidence, and there's some studies out there, I'm not going to quote them, I have them in front of me, but I could quote a gazillion studies that say one thing or another thing, but there does seem to be very legitimate science behind this, and it seems like the ones that are saying selenium intake should not be more than 170 mcg, and that's getting over that is getting dangerous. I think those people are incorrect. I think it's probably more like 200 to 400 maybe is the correct range, or and maybe that Chinese study says where it doesn't even start to get toxic is where it's like almost 1100 mcg. So you can actually take quite a bit of these, maybe a couple handfuls of this stuff, and you probably have, I don't know what it would be exactly, depends on what, if they're organically grown or whatever, but if you get the kind of like Brazil nuts that you have to open up and peanuts that you have to open up, and depending on what soil they're grown, you could very easily be going up to like 1000 mcg on selenium, and I don't really think it's harmful. But the other thing is it has to work in conjunction with vitamin C and zinc and copper. So, this is something that's a very simple thing that can improve your health. It's very cheap, and it's a food that a lot of people ignore. I know a lot of people ignore the peanuts and the Brazil nuts because they're almost 50% fat. But just remember, there's fats that heal, there's fats that kill. And you have to also remember that the whole total calorie intake that you take is not really reflective of how much you are going to weigh or what your body fat's going to be either. Actually, you can have same two people, one on a 2,000 calorie diet and another person on a 2,000 calorie diet, and it can have a total even doing the same exercise, same genealogy, they could be twins, and their body fat can be totally different. If the 2,000 calorie diet is mainly carbohydrates, that person's going to have a lot more fat, carbohydrates and simple sugar. If the other person has 2,000 calorie diet with a lot of good fats and proteins, which is good fats, and this is all fat and protein basically, that's all it is, really no carbs in it, they're actually going to be leaner and stronger. But the other thing is, like I said, it actually improves your overall health. Besides, it's more than likely it's not just the selenium in there, but that has a lot to do with it. And so a lot of people don't think of it as a health food, they think of it as a snack. But actually, the various types of Brazil nuts, almonds, pistachios, and peanuts are a health food. They are a health food, and nothing's perfect. There's always a drawback to everything. That's why you don't eat one particular food. But I should just want to point out that it more than likely is the selenium in there that's causing some more longevity and less disease that's being touted in some of the studies. It's probably the selenium in there, and that coincides with a lot of other studies that show high selenium in soils that have led to less deaths and a longer life and less incidence of cancer and less incidence of HIV. And they've shown this throughout the world. So one natural way to get the selenium is through the mixed nuts. And like I said, if you have to open the shells up themselves, that's actually even has more nutrition in it, far more nutrition, far more selenium, and it also depends on where it's grown. So you don't know exactly how much of what you're getting into something, but if you're going to be, you should not be too fearful of saying I'm going to overdose on selenium by eating some Brazil nuts and peanuts or whatever, a handful or whatever a day. It's not going to hurt you. Actually, a lot of people have never realized that that is actually a health food. They keep thinking of it as a snack. So I want to point that out. So that's one snack that you can have that is actually healthy, very convenient, very easy to store, and its simplicity as anything, and it's food on the go too. That's another thing. It's almost like this is almost like a little bit of a sports bar that's stays good and never melts too. So there's a lot of advantages to some of the things that we overlook that are very simple.